In today's video, we are going to give an in-depth analysis on whether or not many characters from the original Tournament of Power will be playable in Sparking Zero, also known as Budokai Tenkaichi 4, based off of the relevance from the Tournament of Power. We're going to have a lot of fun in this interactive game because you are going to have fun remembering some characters that are so ridiculously irrelevant that we actually have to go online and look up their names because they are literally that forgettable. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video. We're going to start off with Xenoverse 7. Now, this is going to be real quick. We don't even have to spend much time on this. Every single character here is going to be playable because based off of what DBS Hype was talking about, it's going to feature OG, which we are referring to, or at least guessing that's referring to OG Original Dragon Ball. So even characters that can't fly should be playable. And one quick thing that I do want to point out is that if there was one character that wouldn't be playable from Xenoverse 7 in more modern times, I would guess that would be Master Roshi, but I've actually figured out a creative way that you can actually make Master Roshi fly for Xenoverse 7, and it's very simple. Just use the possessed version of him from Urien, because if you remember when Master Roshi fought against Tien, and he was possessed by Urien, he was capable of flying, so if you kind of want to get around that whole limiter of we want all characters to fly, unlike the original game where they had characters that didn't fly, but you want to kind of follow those Xenoverse rules where you need characters to fly for whatever reason, just go with the fact that Master Roshi in his possessed form can fly. So with that said, Goku is playable, Vegeta is playable, Gohan is playable, Piccolo is playable, Frieza's playable, Android 17, we actually saw him in 18 in the trailer, obviously Krillin, we saw him in the trailer, Tien, we saw him in the trailer, and Master Roshi, I'm more than likely guessing that he's definitely going to be in the game. If you want him to fly, just use his possessed form. So now we're going to move on to Xenoverse 11. Now, how many Xenoverse 11 characters are playable here? So, we're definitely going to say Jiren, obviously, because we saw him in the trailer. Toppo would be a cool character because of the whole God of Destruction ability and all of that stuff. Dispo's really fast and lasted a long time, so I feel like with his speed, and also because of the fact that he looks like a rabbit version of Beerus, I think he's definitely going to be in the game. And then Casserole, if I had to guess, is probably not going to be in the game, but because he is the leader of the Pride Troopers and has a unique design, and had some more relevance than the other characters, I could definitely see him being playable. Now, as far as these other characters are concerned, the only one that I think might be playable, and I'm going to give a slight edge to playable here, would be Kunshi, because I think he has a really cool, unique ability with the whole rope, like electrical rope thing that he was, you know, using in his fight against Goku and Hit. And pretty much after Kunshi, guys, if we're going to be completely honest, with Kakot, she's a who cares character. Kettle, who cares? I mean, just look at the guy. I mean, come on, like, this guy looks disgusting. Booyan, he got, like, one-shotted by Kale. Then we have Tupper, who gave Goku some problems, like holding him down, but overall, he's pretty forgettable. He wouldn't be good for a video game. And Zoirei, like, come on, like, he's forgettable. So, all of these characters are definitely in the who cares. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I know it looks one-sided for playable, guys, but as you go down this list, you will see that a lot of these characters are a lot less playable than you think. So now we're going to move on to the Xenoverse 6 characters, and to be specific, we are going to start off with Hit, who's obviously very playable because he was the star character from Xenoverse 6, and pretty much all of them besides Kefla, obviously. And Caulifla, she's a real crowd pleaser. You gotta have Caulifla in this game. I mean, if you don't have Caulifla, fans are gonna rage. Kale, obviously, too. Which is why I'm also going to put Kefla in the middle of them. Because I honestly think those two characters combined with Kefla are definitely going to be playable. If they're not, I mean, I don't know how people are gonna feel like that. I mean, let's just think about it. Like, Kefla specifically pushed Goku farther than pretty much everybody in the Tournament of Power outside of Jiren. She can transform, she has basically the ridiculous power of Kale combined with Caulifla's personality. Like, Caulifla, Kale, and Kefla are extremely iconic to the Tournament of Power, and I also feel like a lot of people would want to play with Caulifla and Kale individually, kind of have like the whole female Broly, and to have like that whole Universe 6 version of Goku based off of her personality. So as a result of it, these three are definitely playable. And then when we get to their, I guess you could say their buddy in crime, Kaba, which sounds kind of cringe and corny, but I'm going to keep going here. I feel like Cabba's also really playable. He didn't do too much in the grand scheme of Dragon Ball when you really think about it, but he was relevant somewhat in the U6 tournament. He did fight in the Tournament of Power. He has Super Saiyan 2. I feel like he would be a unique character to have because he kind of represents like the Sadala Force. So as a result of it, I still think Cabba would be playable. And then, because Frost is basically Frieza from Universe 6, I definitely think we're going to see Frost in the game. Then we have a character like Magetta, who, honestly, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you, I mean, he can be like a semi-kaiju kind of character, so maybe we can see him. But I don't see too many people getting excited to play with Magetta. Boltamo has a unique ability with his Winnie the Pooh looking self, so I guess he can be somewhat in this. But I don't know, like, I feel like Boltamo is a character that can get scratched, but because of the U6 tournament, these characters appeared on 2 different occasions. I feel like we have to give the edge to them being playable. Now, as far as Sawinel and Purina are concerned, the 2 Namekians, I think both of these characters are in the no care, and I know that, you know, I understand, guys, like, trust me, I definitely get the fact that a lot of you can legitimately argue that these 2 characters could be relevant, but we didn't really see that much of them, and the one thing that they could do that really would make a difference would be fusing, and considering the fact that we didn't see a gas core lot kind of thing, I think these 2 characters are going to get scratched off. But I could see them possibly making it, but nah, definitely not. And then also Dr. Rhoda, I mean, I had to look this guy up because I almost completely forgot him. I remembered every character from the Universe 6 tournament without having to look him up, except for Dr. Rhoda. He was the one character that I completely forgot for good reason. He's a completely irrelevant character, did nothing. So now when we move on to Universe 10, and I'm ranking the universes by relevance here, I would say as far as Universe 10 is concerned that the overwhelming majority of the characters are extremely forgettable. And remember, guys, when you're inputting a character into the game, it's not just about how relevant they were, it's also their style. Like, was there a decent sample size of seeing their abilities and how they fight that would be added to the game? And for a lot of these characters, I don't think that's the case. The one character that I can actually see being a part of Tenkaichi would be Obuni, because he did have that cool, unique ability where he was manipulating himself against Gohan. He had that little backstory with his family being erased, and he did have a relatively long fight against Gohan compared to other fights in the Tournament of Power. So I feel like if there's one character that's going to be in this game, it would be him. Lily Boo, I only remember her because she was the first character to get eliminated. Jirasin, I remember this guy because he's basically a Ken knockoff from Street Fighter. Actually, no, he's not really a Ken knockoff, he's a Vega knockoff. What am I talking about? Murichin was the leader, but I mean, we saw nothing of this guy, so he's a no-cares character. And then when we keep going on here, like Diem, I mean, he could fly, but that was pretty much it. He's pretty forgettable, too. And then when we keep going down the list here, I mean, we have characters like Methiop. I remember Caulifla fought against him very briefly. He looks like a stupid crab-looking thing. Like, come on, nobody's gonna want to play with this guy. Murray Sam, another jobber nobody cares about. Rubolt, don't know what this guy's supposed to be. Some Jamaican dread thing, whatever the heck he's supposed to be. He sucks. Napapa, he's like a sumo wrestler, but he's so irrelevant that most people couldn't even remember him. And then we also have this guy here, Zerkor. Yeah, that should tell you something. Like, this guy looks like some yoga master. He looks cool. He has an interesting design. Kind of, I don't know, kind of reminds me of Dalsim from Street Fighter in a way, but overall, Universe 10 had a lot of jobbers that nobody cares about. And then we move on to Universe 9. I thought about this legitimately, guys. We already saw Bergamo in the trailer, so he's confirmed. I think we're only really going to see Lavender and we're going to see Basil, because they were in the exhibition match and they were also in the Tournament of Power, and considering the fact that they're the 3 represented as the strongest characters from their own respective universe, kind of similar to the whole Sonic Knuckles tail color scheme going on here, I feel like they are the only characters that are going to make it out of their universe. As far as the others, in terms of Hop, who cares? In terms of other characters here, like Sorel, I mean, looks kind of like a Lola Bunny kind of character, but, I mean, let's be honest. Complete jobber. Oregano, jobber. Chapel, jobber. Hyssop, jobber. Roselle, jobber. I mean, and then we also have this guy here, Comfrey. Like, come on, seriously, look at this guy. Like, you really think people are gonna want to play with this alien mutated lake of what is that thing they call in the water, like the Loch Ness monster kind of thing? Like, come on, man, people aren't gonna want to play with him. So he's forgettable as hell. And as you guys are seeing, the who cares is starting to add up to the playable as we're starting to continue this here. So now we're gonna move on to Universe 4, and this is gonna be really simple. I feel like Ganos, and I'm being honest, I think Ganos is the only playable character because he was spying for Universe 4, he had that transformation, and he had a relatively long fight against Roshi. I feel compared to most characters from Universe 4, he's going to be the one to make it to represent it, because I feel like every universe is going to have at least one representative, and I think he would be that representative. In terms of, you know, other characters, I can see Majora making it because he's a blind fighter, so maybe they can have like a unique style with him. Shosa, I mean, he fought briefly against, you know, he was against Krillin in 18, but overall, I mean, he's pretty forgettable. Then you have the invisible fighter that fought against Piccolo and eliminated him, which is the only reason I even remember him, but, I mean, he's forgettable. I mean, it would be hard to introduce his fighting style into the game. Then we have, you know, one of these characters here that I hated seeing in the Tournament of Power, which is Gami Salas, which I really, really hate. Gami Salas and Damon. So, Gami Salas is the invisible one, and Damon is the bug. I completely forgot about. Like, that's how forgettable it was. Like, when you have characters like this, like, nobody's gonna want to play as these guys. And then we also have this chick here. The only reason I remember her is because, like, she was flirting. Well, shall we say, she was trying to, like, use her secret jutsu on Roshi, and it did briefly work until Roshi got under control again. Darkori also fought against Roshi, and she was using that whole image thing, so she has a unique-ish ability, but there's not enough of her to really be playable, so she's forgettable. Then we have Nink, come on, like, look at this guy. Then we also have Shansei, look at this guy. Then we have Mona, who's like a fat Majin Buu ponytail-looking character, come on, like, she's forgettable, nobody cares about her. And then when we move on to Universe 2, we get into, and by the way guys, the only reason why I'm saying all of these characters' names over again is for the 1 or 2% of you who still care about their names. If it wasn't for that, I would just speed through and just move on to the characters that are relevant. But I know that some of you want to remember their names for fun, so I'm caring about the 2% of you there. So now we move on to another set of characters here when it comes to Ribrianne, Kakunsa, and Rosie. Now, I feel like all three of these are playable because they're the whole Magic Girl trio, and I feel like because of that and their transformations, they would be cool for the game, especially Ribrianne. So I feel like those three are going to be representative of their universe. Jamise, because we need Yardrat representation, I feel like he's going to be playable. You know, and also, I mean, we might see some Yardrats from the Moro arc, but other than that, I feel like he's probably the only one. There's also Zarbuto, who in some sources is referred to as a Tuffle Sefurujin. The thing about him is Zerloin and Rabanra had like that whole magical guy trio after these three were eliminated, so there's a chance we could see them, but I just don't think these characters are relevant enough. I'm just gonna be honest, like, they barely had anything of memory in the tournament. Then you have, like, this character over here, who you would remember him as Harmira. I mean, he fought briefly against Tien, but, I mean, this guy's pretty forgettable. And Tien was forgettable in the tournament, too, so it's not like he's going to do much. And then you have Bicol, like, she kind of looks like a cool demon. She has a cool design, but it's nothing to remember. And then you have this guy, Prum, like, if looking at this guy wasn't enough to tell you that this guy's not going to be in the Tournament of Power, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to tell you guys. Look at this muck-looking thing over here. Looks like the Pokemon Muck, for crying out loud. You really think he's going to make it into the game? Hell no. So he goes into the Who Cares, and as you're starting to see, the Who Cares is starting to outnumber the playable. And now we move on to Universe 3. Now, here's where it's going to get ugly, because I only think there are 2 characters here that are worthy of being played. Annie Raza, I'm 100% sure Annie Raza is going to be in this game as kind of like a kaiju fighter. He might be similar to Megetta, but just a lot larger because he has that whole Hachiyak theme going on there. So I definitely think Annie Raza will be representative of Universe 3. And also, if I had to pick one individual character, I would say Dr. Pepperoni, because he did have like that cool staff, and he was one of the more relevant characters from this irrelevant universe. But other than those two guys, we have Kato Pesla, who was kind of like, I mean, he has a unique design, and he was kind of like acting silly throughout the tournament, but this guy overall didn't do much to really get his own game design and fighting style. Like, this guy sucks. Then you have Negrisi, who, cool design, but nothing really to think of here. Then we have Majikayo, kind of like a weird aquatic-looking Astro Boy character, but completely forgettable here. And then we have all of the robots that you have to use the internet to remember their names, because these guys are so ridiculously irrelevant that we have to go one by one. So, Biara, completely forgettable. Narirama, completely forgettable. Boraretta, completely forgettable. They're all just robots, so they don't stand out that much. Then you have this Giru look-alike one over here with that big eye. I mean, Koitsukai, like, come on, man. Like, this guy sucked. Like, what are you gonna remember about him? I mean, a lot of these characters just fuse into Aniradza, or just fuse, like... Then you have Zapricio. I mean, he looks the most humanoid outside of Pepperoni, but he's forgettable too. And then we have Panacea, which, I don't know, who cares about this? And then we also have Koisiretta, which was like a pre-fusion to Adiraza. So, come on, like, overall, this is just garbage. So, when we do the math, and what we see out of all of the 80 Tournament of Powers, and then it's a little bit more than that when you start adding in fused characters, we get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if we have 11 here, multiplied by 4, that's 44 plus 4 is 48 characters. And then when we have 11 times 3 is 33 plus 2, so we have 35 versus 48. And I feel like that's pretty much how we can look at all of this. 35 plus 48 is a total of 83. And as a result of it, guys, out of the 83 characters, obviously including fusions once again, we have 35 that are playable and 48 that are not. I feel like this list is extremely accurate. I mean, maybe you can make an argument for some in the comment section below, but overall, a lot of these characters are jobbers and forgettable, and that's basically all we can say for today. So, appreciate you guys sticking around for this little interactive Tournament of Power game. It took me a while to make all of these graphics in this tier list to make it a little bit easier to follow through in the video, but that's all I gotta say. Look forward to playing Tenkaichi 4, also known as Sparking Zero, and I will talk to you guys later.